Hello, and thank you for watching our STEM Ambassador in Scotland Week 2023 career video. Today, we will be speaking to Jordan Moir, who's a Senior Biomedical Scientist with NHS Scottish National Blood Transfusion Service, who's going to be telling us a little bit about what his role entails and how he got to where he is today, the subjects that he studied, and then we've got some questions that have been sent in. So without any further ado, I'll pass over to Jordan.
Cool. No, thank you very much for having me today. So, like we were saying, I am a senior biomedical scientist with the Scottish National Blood Transfusion Service. I've been with the Scottish National Blood Transfusion Service, or I'll refer to it throughout as SNBTS just for short, since 2016. A lot of things has happened since then. We've had the pandemic and things. So, yeah, I'll just go through how I got into the role and then where we are now. So I am a biomedical scientist, so it's a kind of broad range of modern science that we kind of come under. It covers a lot of different things, from say blood requirements for critical patients to outbreaks of infectious diseases, which we all very know much about recently, and monitoring bacterial biomarkers for cancer, just a few to say the least. We are involved in NHS, so you'll probably at some point have all provided a sample at your doctor's GP or when you were born, such a blood sample. These would have passed through a biomedical scientist or a BMS at some point, and these would have been ran in labs, processed the samples, and then results sent back to your clinician. These results that we're producing then provide the clinician with the resources they need to diagnose their patients. So this is kind of what we do in the background as biomedical scientists. However, biomedical scientists are not just in hospital labs. They can be all over. They're mostly in the health sector, but various other things that they could fall into is water sampling, for example, for Scottish Water, forensics, teaching. If you do top-up modules, you could go into that route. Quality assurance and research. There's a whole vast array of stuff that we can do. There's various training qualification ways to get into the role. So I went from school into university and did the degree, which is for biomedical scientists. If you are thinking about doing this route, I would suggest looking at the Institute of Biomedical Science website. It's really good wealth of information, because throughout the UK, there's only a few that actually do what we call an accredited Institute of Biomedical Science degree. By doing this, that allows you to go straight into the NHS to work as a biomedical scientist without having to do further top-up modules. So these are kind of wee pitfalls that you could have. So if you really want to do biomedical scientist and be in the NHS, I would suggest going on that route. We are looked after by the Health and Care Professions Council, so we're state registered, so that means we've got set standards and various other things that we must meet and comply to throughout our position, and these are reassessed every 2 years to ensure that you are still continue to be state registered and fit for purpose. So a bit of background about myself. So I went to school in Scotland here, and I worked through primary school, high school. At high school, I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do. It took me a good few years to kind of work out. Went to various career events and stuff. So I kind of kept my options quite open for my subjects. So I did chemistry, maths, biology. Later on, I did human biology. I also did some music, and I did computing things because I really just didn't know at that point what I wanted to do. Originally, as a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, which is obviously not what I'm doing these days. Then things developed, and I wanted to do forensic science. Speaking to a few other folk, going to careers events, and that I realised that this job was quite not much opportunities here in the UK for that. So that was kind of why the biomedical science route came in with the option to jump to forensics. So that was kind of one of the ways that I got into the area I'm in now. After leaving school, sorry, I went into university. So I did 6 years at high school. I did do advanced hires, but you really don't need it for this degree as long as you've got the odd hires. I would probably just check to see what the qualifications are now. But things I did for advanced hire are kind of mirrored in year one of the degree course that does go along with this biomedical science degree. I then, from there, went into the workplace where I've done various other qualifications throughout the years for that. So I did start off as a biomedical scientist in 2016 and then became a senior biomedical scientist just last year. So that was a good step up. So this was through doing training portfolios and various other tasks at work to get to that stage. Work experience, I would say this is a really good thing to do. So at school, I got to visit various different hospital labs. So once I kind of decided this is what I wanted to do, I just wrote to, emailed, phoned various places and asked could I come for a visit. And most folk now are kind of coming out of the pandemic are quite happy to help with that, or even kind of virtual chat or whatever they can maybe sort out for you. Um, I also worked in retail, so I worked at McDonald's and Starbucks in my younger years. This gave me great transferable skills, and I would really recommend, obviously it's a work-life balance with school and stuff like that, but if you can, it gives you good extracurricular stuff to add to your CV as well. Whilst at university, I went on placement, so I worked for the blood transfusion service in 2013 as part of placement, and that allowed me to then go straight into a role in the NHS when I did finish my degree. So making my career choice, like I said, it was very difficult. So I kind of left it quite open, did some various different things. So then by the time I was getting to fifth, sixth year making the choices, I then decided that this was what I wanted to do. Future plans for me. So there's a lot of projects on the go for us at Blood Transfusion because a lot was put on hold for the pandemic. We started making new products and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we have got a lot coming up. So hopefully I'll continue to be there for a lot more longer. Tips for the future I've just put here. So that was kind of what I was saying, like your work experience and that. If you can get some of that, it'd be great because it really lets you know that that's what you want to do for the future. And also, like I said, if you're wanting to do the biomedical science degree, then utilize the IBMS website to find out details as to what the accredited degrees are. So I thought I would show you some pictures of what my role day to day looks like. So I work for, like we said, the Scottish National Blood Transfusion Service. So they were formed in the 1940s by a guy named Jack Copeland, who was an Edinburgh dentist, who then decided to, or realised there was a problem here. We didn't have such a supply in Scotland. So we then created a voluntary service, and it continues to be a voluntary donation service throughout Scotland. So maybe in the future you'll like to donate for us. Your parents that might also donate as well. So we used to have multiple sites across Scotland, and just in 2017 we merged into one building, which is now on Heriot Watt campus site out at Riccarton in Edinburgh, and we formed the Jack Copeland Centre. This is a state-of-the-art made centre for this, and it brought everything that SNBTS does together. So we also do in our place tissues and cells, such as stem cells, various other things. Heart valves are also done in the building here, so it brought us all together. Just to show you, so I work in manufacturing and dispatch, so we process all the blood. So this is based on the ground floor of the building, just due to the large size machines that we use. And then up the stairs, we've got our testing, and then we've also got the offices as well on site too. So the journey of blood transfusion. So we did receive donations back at Manufacturing Centre. So this is from various places such as town halls, donor centres throughout Scotland. And we have a transport team that collects this and it brings it back to us overnight. We start beginning processing overnight and then testing as well, and then we then forward it on. Once all testing and labelling is correct, so probably about 24 hours later, it's then on the shelf ready to go out to hospitals. So once it's in the hospitals, we can then send it out to patients. So they match the blood to the patient and then send it to the hospital wards where they do checks and then transfuse if all is okay. So I'm just going to take a quick step by step through what we do. So we firstly receive the blood donation. So this is a little pack you can see here in front of the computer. We then tell our computer system what it's going to be, so we can make various products from that. We can get up to 3 different products from one donation. So these are really vital products. We then put them into our manufacturing lab, which is a grade D facility. So this means that it's a clean room facility. So we wear Crocs, non-shedding lab coats, so they're almost like shower curtains, hair nets. It's just to really protect the blood and make it the safest it possibly can be. We work in a pod system, which means we put the blood into centrifuges, spin them down. We then put them onto something called a macro press, which I'll show you a picture in the next slide. And these are automatic blood presses, separators that separate the blood. When they are in the centrifuge, it splits into 2 different layers. Your plasma's at the top, your red cells at the bottom. So then when it goes on this machine's got detectors that detect where the blood is and then puts it into the correct bags. It also then heat seals this, and then we can then transfer and use the products for various different things. Plasma, we use that for freezing, and it's used for if people have large bleeds, that can be used for clotting factors and various other things. The red cells, if somebody has a large blood loss, we would use the blood for that and to also help provide oxygen. Or again, like I said, a large blood loss, we would use things like that. We filter all our blood components, so you can see that's what's happening here in the picture on the side. The reason we filter them is it removes white blood cells and anything else nasties that are in there. So about 90 to 95% is removed at this process. This is really important to make it the safest we possibly can for transfusion. We've got other methods that we can actually further reduce that as well. Once we've done that, so up the stairs, we've got our testing department. So they're testing. So for each donation, we get 3 samples. So they're testing them while we're processing this down the stairs. Once all testing is complete, we can then produce a ABO blood label, which tells them the blood group, and then we can then stick out the packs. That's what's happening in that top picture there. Once all the results are in and all fine, all the blood is labelled, we can then release it to stock, and that's it good to go to the hospitals. The pictures at the bottom of this just to show you some of the blood products that we make. So we've got our red cells, we've got our buffy coats. So these are a kind of middle product that we use, and that has got platelets in it. So we can manufacture platelets also on our site. Platelets are used, say if you've had a mass bleed, you might need platelets again to top you up, just because they clot together and then help with things like that. We've also got our fresh frozen plasma and our cryo precipitate products. Again, we make these on site and also freeze them down to -80. So they are products, and these last for 3 years. Our red cells are just 35 days. So that's why we need quite a high turnover. And lastly, we've got our platelet products. So these are some taken straight from the donor and some we produce from the buffy coats at Jack Copeland Centre. Another few things that we do is we've got specialist products we make, such as wash red cells, wash platelets. These are made for specific patients as and when needed. We also produce exchange units and IUTs, which are intrauterine transfusions. These are for neonates or potentially ones that haven't even been born yet, and these are done at Queen Elizabeth in Glasgow only. So once we have all this stuff on the shelf, we then have our dispatch lab. So it's a bit, I don't know how to describe it, a bit like Amazon maybe. So we've got our shelf in that you can see here in the fridge. It's big walk-in fridges we have, which has the blood stocks, and we are then sending it out across Scotland. We have a great team of transport who help us out, and we've also got a blue light car service as well for any emergencies, such as incidents that may happen for that. Just finally to touch on, this is the last thing I'm going to touch on. So our testing department up the stairs. So like I said, they run analyzers and test all our donations with the samples that we receive. Various different things that we have to test for is the ABO, so the blood group for the donations, the RH, so that says pos or neg, antibody screening, high titer, hepatitis B, C, hepatitis E, HIV, HTLV, and syphilis. So there's a lot of testing goes on to ensure that it's as safe as it can be for all our patients, and we're not transferring on any nasties to them. Other tests that we do, so depending on if folk have travelled across the world or various other things, and this is all from what the donor services tell us from the donation sites. So you might get a test for West Nile, malaria, CMV, and also IAT, which is irregular antibody testing as well. Most of our testing is done on automatic analyzers. You can see that in the picture there. That's just a kind of screen snapshot of our lab up the stairs. But we do have to do some things, manual testing from time to time. This is done very rarely, but it's really just if they've had any reactions with the machines or any of the reagents that we use, we would use that. So that was just a whistle-stop tour of what we do at the Jack Copeland Centre from a self side and also in the building as a whole as biomedical scientists. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jordan. That was really fascinating, and it's so nice to find out about what sort of goes on behind the scenes. I know we have a lot of our young people who are aware of doctors and nurses and those sort of things, but maybe not aware of the other sort of areas that they can get in the medical fields. Also, love that you talk about the transferable skills. I think, again, a lot of our young people have got weekend and part-time jobs and maybe don't really think about what they're doing in them. They think I'm just working in the shop or I'm just working in a cafe, but it's like, you've got customer service, you're using your numeracy skills, you're using technology, using the tills and things. So it's really good to point out. And also, I did love your bullet points. I did like that little touch. So you did cover some of the questions that we have in, but we've got some more really interesting that you talked about the Institute of Biomedical Sciences, because that was one of the questions that we got, was how you find out about where you would get an accredited degree. So that's the place to look.
Yeah, so their website is really good for that, and they do run various different workshops and stuff that you can pop along throughout the year. So they have also Biomedical Science Week or Biomedical Science Day. They're it's going to become a week eventually. So that is a big thing that we try and promote the biomedical science in that time. One thing that we do suggest on that is that, yeah, you would look at their website because it is forever changing. The unis have to meet set standards to then be allowed that accreditation. By getting that accreditation, that allows them to do the placements where you would do the portfolio. It's a 16-week placement. Some of them do it split, so it does vary. But if you've not had that placement, then potentially you would have to then do top-up modules to get into the degree. So it kind of just saves you at the end if your end goal is to get into the NHS, is the best way to go through it.
It's really useful because there's so much information out there. It's hard to know where to look for these things. You talked as well about work experience and how important that was and how you went about sort of gaining. And that was another question that came in, was about, did you have any tips? So was it purely just emailing, and where did you find these contacts from?
Yeah, so it was just kind of emailing and stuff like that. Just kind of a lot of them I maybe emailed or somebody in like the local hospital, and then it was then kind of passed from person to person to get there. If anybody is interested more in, blood transfusion, we've got a great team at us. So if you email the generic email address that's on the Scott Blood website, that'll then get passed to our team that can then, advise you more on the various roles that we can have for that. But yeah, there's loads and loads of opportunities out there. And I guess if you're really just not sure, it's always good to just go and see if it's maybe something for you, because you'll not know until you see.
Yeah. And when you picked the degree, did you know where you wanted to be? Is this the role that you wanted to be in at the end of it?
Um, no, actually, I had a very different idea of what I wanted to do. At one point, I did think about doing teaching and stuff like that. So it was very open at that point as to what I was doing. And then by the time I was getting to kind of third, fourth year, that's when I kind of realized that this is what I wanted to do. And then doing the placement really did kind of solidify that, like, right, blood transfusion is where I want to be. But like I said, there's so much falls into the biomedical science category. You could do histopathology, which is looking at your cancer samples. We've got hematologies in the hospitals, which they're doing the kind of more blood side of blood work, such as full blood counts that you might get from your doctor. There's also the transfusion labs in the hospital, and they're preparing the blood to go out to the wards, and various other things like that, biochemistry as well. So yeah, there's lots of options out there.
Yeah, and as you said, you took a broad series of subjects, and then the degree that you went into could lead to different fields. And I think that's really important. A lot of young people think, I need to know exactly what it is that I'm doing, and you sort of leave your options open. We did have a question about some of the other subjects that you took. Do you ever use your more creative subjects, your music or your languages and things? Or,
Um, I actually do. Or well, not to the extent in my degree, or not in my job, sorry. But yeah, for various things. So I've now play the piano, like just as on a side. Also like musical theatre. So some stage shows. Obviously with COVID, that kind of put things on hold. But yeah, no, totally. I do enjoy it. And the computer side of stuff, IT is literally taken over. So it's always good to have that background knowledge with regards to that. Um, and yeah, I do like going to France on holiday now and then. So especially Disneyland Paris. So the French does come in
jealous.
handy.
And as you say, yeah, I mean, if you know what you need to get into the degree, then it's worthwhile taking subjects that you enjoy as well, if you can afford to do that.
Yeah.
With regards to, you're talking about the computing and things, we did get a question. Is there a lot of technology used in your job, and is it useful to have those sort of technology skills as well?
Yeah, so we do generally on a day-to-day basis like use so much computer stuff, whether it be like so transferable skills such as Word, packages that you can use, Excel, various things like that get used a lot. A lot of our machinery now, it's all getting very tech-based. Obviously the companies supply that technology and we're just using it. But it's also good to kind of have that kind of background. But you definitely do not need it. Like it's all basic enough things that you can learn as and when on the job for that. So I wouldn't panic if you've not got a computing degree for biomedical science, because it's not a requirement for the degree.
Yeah,
But it's always handy to have.
fantastic. And as well as the subjects, what skills would you say were important in your role?
So for us, we have a kind of all-round kind of role for us. So we're obviously dealing with hospital blood banks, and we're also dealing with donors that maybe phone in after donating and say, "Oh, I've had a problem donating, or I've got a big bruise, or whatever kind of things." So customer service is a big, massive thing for what we do. For the biomedical scientists, so we have a team of 40 biomedical support workers underneath us, so they help us with our day-to-day roles. So we are also supervising them. So there's a slight managerial role in that as well. So it gives you that extra skills there too. I'm trying to think other things that we have. Just an eye for detail. Like there's a lot of things we are doing, and you have to kind of decide, is that good enough? Is the product quality good enough to actually go out the door, or do we have to further investigate this? So it's all kind of things like that. But as part of the standards that we have to meet for HCPC, that kind of comes into that specifics.
Just another couple of questions that we had there. So you talked about sort of being reassessed every couple of years. With regards to any other training, have you got any plans? Is there any further studies you would like to do for your
Um,
career or otherwise?
yeah, so I would like to do our masters. So we're in the kind of process of creating a new master's degree. So that will hopefully be sometime soon in the future that will come out. There is also ones down south that currently provide it, but up here in Scotland, we're trying to get more in that way. The pandemic kind of put things on hold for that. So the joys, that's what we're always talking about. It's always that problem. So yeah, I would like to get that done in future, and then that would further be allowing me to progress for that. Various other things that I would kind of like to learn. Just we have quite a few conferences that come up throughout the year, and it's good to go to them just to see what's kind of coming up. A lot of things across the world, like various different things that folk are working on, such as there was one with liver enzymes, I believe, and it was changing the blood group, is one of the things that's kind of on the go at the moment. So obviously we are getting one group for donors, but say we've really short in another group, we could use that. So that's all kind of things that are in research and stuff like that at the moment. But it's always interesting to find out what's kind of happening in that these kind of fields.
Really interesting. And final question. So is there a lot of career opportunities, and are the opportunities, are they quite regional, or is it across Scotland, across the UK?
Yeah, so for biomedical science, like I said, it's very broad range. So there's so many opportunities that do come up. For this, we are about to recruit for another couple just at the moment for us, for biomedical scientists. But again, any hospitals that are across the country, they have their own labs in them. So there'll be always biomedical scientists required for their roles there. We are quite lucky in the sense we've got biomedical support workers. So if anybody is interested in that and don't want to do the biomedical science route, they can get into that. They don't even need to have a degree for that, but they can, if they have a degree, go into that role as well, such as a biology degree or anything. It's very an open role for that. So it's good to kind of get some experience if you're maybe not sure once you leave school what you want to do. Potentially that is the role as well for folk to go down.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time,
You're very
Jordan. It's
welcome.
been really informative. And yeah, I've learned a lot about what goes on behind the scenes and the different roles that are out there. So yeah, thank you again. And please do watch our other careers videos that we've got. And I will pop some links after this video to some of the things that Jordan's mentioned, the websites and things. Thank you.
Thank you.